Today we have a very interesting topic and a very interesting guest which I'm going to let Auntie Remember introduce.
Thank you. All right, yes, today we have with us Dr. MHIZHA. Dr. MHIZHA is a psychologist. He specializes in developmental psychology and also educational psychology. He's studied a lot on adolescents, youth, and on issues of being a street kid and their mental health. Today we're going to look at mental health of young adults who are in tertiary institutions. This is a very interesting subset of the population. They've come from home where they've been sheltered, where everything has been provided, where the rules are very clear and they know the consequences of breaking those rules. But they're now going into the world, some cultures, and it's not always easy because they don't understand that culture, and the freedom that they have where nobody knows them, and they do stuff that sometimes becomes detrimental to them. But we also have children that leave maybe the rural areas and they've just come into town for the very first time, that for the first time in their lives they're making decisions on their own. That might actually pose a problem for them, a challenge for them. So because Dr. MHIZHA has worked so much with the youth, he's here to shed light on what are the potential risks of mental health problems in young adults who are in tertiary institutions, and how are institutions actually helping these young adults, and over and above that, how is the mental health manifesting, mental health challenges, how are they manifesting in the youth? So welcome, Dr. MHIZHA. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, Dr. MHIZHA, tell us a bit about the kind of student that we have in the tertiary institution. What are they? Where are they coming from? What's their background like? What are they facing?
They are not a uniform group. They are not homogeneous. But traditionally, the majority of them, they came from peasant families in the rural areas. And some actually from very poor backgrounds, some even from urban areas. Though there are many others from very affluent families. These students, they come from diverse backgrounds. And they are different in many ways, but the majority of them actually youth. They are adolescents and youth, right, who are just actually in the transition from childhood to adulthood, and they're still trying to navigate that path from childhood to adulthood. And when they get to university, they've made decisions on what career to follow. Yes. So basically, they're not uniform.
They're not uniform.
Yes.
So they've left home. They decided they're going to study psychology, medicine, or whatever, accountancy. What then happens? What are the challenges that they face? What is causing mental health?
To start with, we don't want to say they've chosen a career. Sometimes those careers are chosen for them.
Yes.
The typical student at a university, is given a career. Yes, is given a degree program, either by the institution or sometimes by their parents. They seem to know better for the student. Now the issue then is, when they get to the university, one key issue is peer influence. Because what happens is, during that stage, they actually living actually the reliance on their parents to rely more on their peers. Yes, who actually in this changing world maybe know better than their parents about what actually is happening in life. So these actually students who are trying to grapple a lot with a lot of things that are happening in their lives. In the city, like we're saying, some are coming from maybe from the ghetto, or rather the majority actually coming from from to secondary school in the rural area, then get to the urban area for A levels. But now there are now A level schools in rural areas, so they do pretty much of their learning in the rural areas. Then they get to the city for their university education. So they are trying also to grapple with the city life.
Yeah.
Yes, and there are also issues with finances, poverty. The issue of poverty in Africa, in Zimbabwe, is actually a key issue, where some actually saying, official statistics are saying maybe more than 70% of the people actually are living in poverty. Yes, yes. So then the issue is maybe the parents would have maybe tried to be able maybe to send them to school, but without providing them with much, with everything. They don't have maybe enough food, worse clothing, because even if they bought them some clothes, but then when they get to university, they realize now a proper young female adult or young male adult should be wearing. So they need also to maybe to conform to those dressing standards from their peers. So I've heard actually many cases of actually students complaining that, well, especially this summer, they talk of summer time. Now, but in the rural areas, maybe they would not actually dress themselves that way. So they're trying to adjust all those things actually. Yes.
And for those who might not know what Shama time is, it's literally when it's summer and people are scantily dressed.
He's walking around half naked and it's kind of sending the wrong message out there, and then they end up in situations where they are now vulnerable. Do we have a lot of cases like that where, or is it are the males in the university now more informed? Is there harassment? Does that add to their mental health issues?
So with regard to sexual harassment, you know, Zimbabwe, a third of female children in Zimbabwe, by the time they reach 18 years, they would have actually been sexually abused. And most of the abuse would occur in the context maybe of being perpetrated by people they know. Sometimes also in their families. So harassment is there, whether in classes, whether with their peers, whether even as they are moving around town. Yes, because once actually they're dressed that way, they were actually going to face harassment. Yes, yes.
Kudzi or Shama, when we talk about girls going what is called Shama time,
Shama time.
Would you agree that there is sexual harassment or even raping of girls in university?
I don't think I can speak much on that topic, but just what I wanted to say recently out of university. I come from a very modest home. You know, it's what can I say? It's praised to dress modestly. You know, it fits into the society and everybody thinks of you as a good. And it was very normal to dress, you know, summertime. I didn't feel pressure to dress in that way, but it gave me a bit of a inferiority complex to say, so what's wrong with me that I can't dress like that? I can't dress like that. I can't go out like that. I'll be very uncomfortable. It's not something that I managed to morph into. But I always had some. It's I don't know if I can say mental health illness or something that triggered me to say to shut up a little bit, act it a little bit. So yeah.
Well, I think to answer the question, yes and no. It does result in sexual harassment and abuse sometimes, because what happens is when people dress a certain way, they say dress the way you want to be dressed. And it's unfortunate that because of the society we are living in now, women or girls tend to dress a certain way because that's what's going on. That's the culture. We're doing it for the culture now. You know, so I'll trend if I wear this. There's social media involved. So I need to look a certain way because aesthetic matters now. So what you see happen now I learned here in Zimbabwe at a very Christian based university, but still we would even laugh at each other and say, the fact that it's Christian doesn't mean that everyone here is Christian.
Yeah.
This can be a rehab. Some parents send their children to Christian universities for rehab, but when you look at them, I mean, you know, some religions don't allow certain type of dressing, but when they come to the school, you find someone has changed completely. Then the day we're leaving to go back home, the person has changed back into who they are. So that's dressing now, because we see you as who you are during the school term. You find people go to parties, get gang rapped because of how you're wearing. And people dress a certain way that even provokes lecturers, male lecturers. Then you now get propositioned for certain favors, or your marks are now in the firing line if you don't do this. You know. So I think it's a yes and no situation.
Very interesting.
Sorry, just to say, and another thing that's trending, I've interacted with some people who go to the University of Zimbabwe, is this topic of blessers who can provide for the lifestyle. You don't necessarily want to be in the relationship, but because, I have to look good, I have to have the latest phone, I have to be in with the right crowd, you end up getting yourself into compromising situations. And it's quite a hot topic with...
Yeah.
Interesting.
I also, so in an interesting way, I perceived it from the outside, especially if we're talking about the side where it affects women and everything. Like what you were saying, that peer pressure. People are now accepting various forms of abuse in order for them to fit in to the environment, just even from alcoholism and all of that, because I think it's a culture I've seen and noticed where you're actually praised for the amount of liquor you can take. And now you have that pressure to drink at the same level as these people. Their tolerance is higher, and now you're drunk, I've seen a lot of those situations, and it affects people in a huge way. It affects even their education, how they now approach it, how some of them actually never recover from some of the things they experience there for life.
So what sort of mental health issues are you seeing from girls that are exposed to bless, are reeling under the pressure, peer pressure, and they have to go into alcohol and all that just to fit in? Basically, I'm saying, what sort of mental health consequences are coming from young adults or the students at tertiary schools trying to fit into the spaces that they're at now?
So, one of the challenges actually pertains to issue of depression. Depression is one of the key challenges that students are facing. In fact, in 2019, we were able to have a World Mental Health Day commemoration at our university. Because we had actually about 3 or so cases of suicide involving students, especially female students, and some of them actually were to do with love affairs. But sometimes these students are forced into relationships, like she was saying, because of financial struggling, because they want actually to keep up with everyone, because actually maybe the way some people are eating, are dressing, then maybe they want also that form of dressing. In any case, that actually is a stage where they should also maybe try to be exploring the issue of love, issues of affairs, even of their own sexuality. So they get into relationships, but then maybe sometimes such relationships actually are not, some are transactional, but some of them are not stable. There's actually a lot of maybe cheating, stuff like that. There are multiple, and sometimes even risky and unprotected sexual relationships, which actually gets them into problems. In fact, the issue of STI is also sometimes a problem. It's actually a problem at university in Zimbabwe. Universities in Zimbabwe, because many actually of these students actually contract STIs because of maybe they are risky and protected, and maybe sexual relationships, because some of the relationships are intergenerational, because you're talking actually of having blessers who provide for them, but then they may not be able to negotiate for safe sex because of that. And one key problem in Zimbabwe is that studies actually have shown that in as much as actually, like I say, a third, actually by the time they reach 18, they would have been abused the people they know. But there are only a few cases that are reported. Only a few cases are reported. It's not everyone that who face abuse who report their abuse. And even those who report, that is that whoever report actually the case is going to result in conviction. Yes. So it's actually a serious challenge for students. Maybe something that I have not mentioned is the issue of gifted and talented learners. Somebody who is good, who is sharp, who is very intelligent, they do have their peculiar mental health challenges. Because they are oversensitive, they want to overachieve. So sometimes they put a lot of pressure on themselves. Yes, because they want to achieve much. Then sometimes maybe they can be able to, or sometimes maybe they're too sensitive, because what happens is that cognitively they're so good. That's why sometimes those people who are very, very good, sometimes sometimes academics, you don't have maybe stable relationships or even stable marriage. Because actually maybe they are not as good in terms of emotional functioning, the way they are so good in terms of academic functioning. Yes. So these students do face a lot of challenges. But one key problem is that they don't necessarily get the service they should be getting. It actually creates a lot of problems, because you are saying a student who is at a tertiary institution where actually sometimes psychology is taught, they are not getting services. So imagine actually somebody who is out there. Who actually in the remote areas where they would have came from. So this creates problems where we are saying this student, before they come to the university, they would have had unresolved problems. So there are very high cases in Zimbabwe of divorce and even parental death. Many of these students actually they are coming from families where maybe both parents or one parent has died, and sometimes where there has been divorce. But the problem is during those death and funeral process rituals, the child is not normally consulted or even involved. They are not seen as somebody who is a legitimate griever. Nobody wants to see a child at a funeral crying. They don't want to see them grieving. So they are protected from grieving, which is actually a problem, because once they don't resolve that grief, it means they are going to live that grief. It actually gets traumatic. So by the time maybe they get to the university, they will definitely have a lot of unresolved issues.
They say that when somebody has been through trauma, they are very vulnerable to more trauma.
Certainly.
So if you've been through trauma as a child, when you go to a place where you're exposed to more trauma, whereas compared to a child who's grown up where there's no trauma, they're able to be more resilient compared to a child who's already been through trauma. So I so agree with you. The children come and they've got all this baggage, and they're meeting more issues. You just said that the university has set up something. Are other institutions doing the same? Do you have the same services for?
Yes, I think almost all the institutions are trying to set up those services, but still those services are not yet actually really very much available. Yes, it's an institution actually we're still trying to establish. Though
what are your needs? What are your needs for that?
So at the moment actually the university is completing actually the refurbishment, then we get accredited through the appropriate regulatory authorities. Yes.
I wanted to take you back, Dr. MHIZHA. Earlier on, you alluded to one of the crisis areas as being their identity. The students having an identity crisis. And to follow through what Mrs. Marcano is saying about parenting, in your experience dealing with these children, do you have what should parents be doing? What should we do? What do we do for the community as a society? How do we raise this awareness so that at least we reduce the impact of the crisis, with our children at some point?
Maybe like Ms. Maricano is saying, the issue is actually about in terms of building resilience and also creating independence in the child.
Yeah.
They should be able to stand on their own.
Yeah.
So maybe you like. I think I like the idea where you are capacitating parents to provide actually resilient parenting to their children, and also maybe also going through churches, because the issue is actually churches are very much active and available in the lives of the growing child. So I think you need to raise a lot of awareness. In fact, the goal of psychology these days is to build capacities in the community so that services are provided in the communities, not at the tertiary level. Yes. So the services are very key. Maybe also the churches and maybe the extended family networks, which are also of course crumbling, and even the schools. Going to the schools actually and building resilience through their education. So the teachers also need to be empowered so that they can be also be building resilience actually in these children, so that when they grow up, they know who they are, and they're not pushed around and about. They're not trying to copy each and every one that they meet. Yes, they know who they are and what they want to do with their lives. Yes.
Sorry, I'm just thinking through you, Mrs. Maricano, that through Springs of Hope, obviously we cannot train the whole nation at the same time, but at least small groups at a time. I mean, at least we want to start. We want to start so that ultimately at some point as a nation we will have the confidence that we are raising our children to be independent.
I do believe that, you know, as Dr. MHIZHA was saying, that if intervention is done early, then we'll have better outcomes for people. And it's so important, Dr. MHIZHA, that as psychologists we really are intentional in coming up with programs that are homegrown, even, you know, that speak to our people, so that we begin to see change, and our children don't think that you know, because we're African we deserve less. We have great minds in psychology. We have great minds, and we can do it as a nation.
A lot of children there and even adults who are living with disabilities who face a lot of problems. Chief of which is the issue of stigma and actually the failure to access services. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the communities. In Zimbabwe there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I've also been exposed to this thinking that we can do more when we are following an interdisciplinary approach, and maybe to help that same person in a united way. I think that would be help. And like maybe people, each one is trying to provide service for themselves and maybe trying to compete. But then you I think if concerted effort are to be made, well, the communities will benefit more. Yes.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's something I was thinking of, but more so in the department of how curriculums are developed in the universities and the schools. For example, I haven't done like a proper research of this, but just interacting with students and seeing like the rhetoric online on people have been complaining about the pressure of academic rigors. I expect everyone to function like at genius levels. You see, most of the lecturers or the people that set the policy are those type of people that you were talking about that are not socially adept. They are focused much on their work, and the rate at which they learn, they expect the whole system to function on. And I've noticed that's also some of what people have been struggling in terms of the pressures, in terms of like just the demands of the curriculum itself. You know,
that leads me to something that did not exist in my time. I never went for extra lessons, and to have straight A's was not an expectation. To have A's was desired and celebrated, but it was not an expectation, it was not a pressure. And I shudder to imagine children that are starting extra lessons, you know, in grade 0 to find a place at a certain school, and and before that child knows nothing, they are sitting for extra lessons so that they can be accepted in a particular school. And then when they get into the school, they have to do extra lessons to keep up the positions. And it's almost, to me, is like we are introducing the stress and the pressure ourselves.
That's
You know, and because, like you say, the curriculum has been set by geniuses with an expectation that standards must be met this high. And I mean, whatever result our children will give us, we are okay with it. We will start there. You know, we will start there, whether celebrate or seek remedy. But I find there is so much pressure in our communities now through the avenue of extra lessons, and before a child knows any other thing, the stress is there already.
And they carry that stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then time for them to socialize. He talked of academic excellence, if I heard you right. We are pushing them academically and they are giving us the straight A's. But this child has a dissonance in terms of social development, relational development. And hence when they now come in the presence of other children, there's a crisis.
That's actually very interesting. You know, when you mentioned kids starting like extra lessons at a tender age, I was actually one of them.
Okay.
And coming to think of it now, just thinking as we're talking about it, I'm realizing, because before, I think I went to kindergarten, right? And then from there, even when I was in grade 1, 6, we didn't have grade 0 and like before then. But I was actually going to extra lessons on the holidays, doing computers, all of that. And I realize now, growing up, I was so much invested in books. I was a reader. You couldn't get me away from my books or from, you know. I finally decided, and when I saw that I actually live in a community, I have to get away from my books. It was now actually a challenge for me to assimilate socially into the society.
Talking about anxiety, so
But you know, it's very interesting and very awkward for a kindergarten child to get in extra lesson because the curriculum for early child development is not actually maybe computers like a saying, it's not actually like reading, writing, no. It's playing. So if somebody
Learning through play.
you're learning through play. So that's how we are saying maybe where you're in social anxiety because you not do what you were supposed to be doing. You were supposed to be playing.
One of our children challenged us when they were going to go for university, because he said programs at university are chosen by the institution and by the parents. Guilty. I come guilty. However, we not in its entirety, but in, you know, I come from that generation. But one thing that I learned through my child was she refused to go to certain institutions, and she said because the pressure will hamper me from excelling with my books. So I would rather go to a lower graded university and excel than go to this university and struggle. We kind of understood and we allowed her to go through with that decision, and yet in that institution where she finally ended, she still was so shocked with children coming from the East. Children would come with an O-level result of 20 straight A's. You know, maybe 11 of them are A stars. And so I'm saying, you said earlier on, the both of you, when we introduced that this is a global problem. I don't think that our forefathers needed be that ultra intelligent to survive in life. I don't know.
So you're also raising this issue. That's why maybe you need to train parents, because we are putting a lot of pressure on our children.
I also think that in terms of drug abuse, it's also, we talked about unresolved issues that they bring, that they're trying to drown. So they'll drink or they'll do marijuana or whatever, you know. It's a way of coping.
Certainly.
Bad coping mechanisms,
In line with I just remembered something that used to happen when I was in college, right? With drug abuse. There's a certain pill I remember some of my peers taking so that they wouldn't sleep in order to study.
Yes.
And I always used to wonder, like, what is, because they had, for me, I was now a different person. The pressures never used to get to me.
Yes.
Although, like, those things, like taking those pills and burnout.
Why did
was
they
a-
want to sleep?
to cope with study. So they were like, if I don't study, I'm going to fail. There's a lot, like, that's why I was saying, like, the curriculum is overloaded. Some of them, I don't know, the research will have to be done. Like, for example, like what you were saying, the USAID is one of those schools, I believe, where the curriculum is so intense. If you go to other universities, you will actually notice a difference. Go to the UZ and you will see. So students there, a lot of them, in trying to cope with the pressures of, you have a lot to cover, the time to you does not seem enough, and then people were like, no, I actually need to take some pills to stay awake so I don't sleep. And I remember at some point actually going through burnout when I was writing my exams, and I actually failed that exam. But it was my own fault. We were doing that last minute thing.
So you see something which is very funny in African universities. Sometimes a lecturer may give a student an exam, they would not pass themselves.
That's true.
But they would not pass that exam themselves. But they want that student to pass. And that student doesn't pass, they say that they are fair.
But parents do that, Dr. MHIZHA. Parents do that. We set expectations for the children that we ourselves fail.
And why would you say that happens?
Why would we do that?
Yes.
We want to achieve through you what we failed to
But
achieve.
exactly, also because we also know that there's a way that is good, that has got good results, even though we couldn't do it. But we're kind of trying to say that's the way to go, but it's the way that we did. Imposing it doesn't work.
So the issue is we were socialized to think that everything good comes through struggle.
Yeah.
Yes. So in the country sometimes they don't do that. When they're teaching you, they're moving up with you. They're teaching you so that you understand. But here in Africa sometimes they don't even sometimes teach. They examine. Yes. They examine
Without teaching.
Without
examine.
teaching. Yes, they will examine you on what they will not have taught you. Yes.
But isn't that the new education 5.0 that we are saying students must go and research and
Teaching should be teaching, should be facilitated learning before you examine. Should make sure that your student are assimilate whatever you want them to learn before you examine
whether
them.
it's through them researching by themselves
Yes.
but they have to
Yes,
learn.
but not this issue of examining things that you don't pass yourself. Some of even the questions are even tricky. That the student may not fail not because they don't know, but they may even fail to understand the question. Yes, the way it has been examined, right? But now, if you look actually in developing countries, sometimes it's not as tough as we do here in Africa. It's not that tough sometimes.
And it's very
lot of
obvious.
people.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you. It's very obvious when you're in a lecture and it's not about the love of the subject. Like let's say I did economics, I loved economics, but I was sitting in the lecture thinking this is not even about economics. The lecturer is just giving information, and then you're expected to pass and do well. It's like at the end of it, have I actually done what I've enjoyed, or just done something for the sake of passing it? Like you say, you study 1 week, next month you ask me what is inequality. I don't know, because I've just done to appease the system and I've moved forward.
But one thing fun actually is that Zimbabwean students, graduates, they go out there, they're so sharp.
Oh yes.
Yes. What they were doing is
It's academic. It's helping academic achievements,
Yes.
but detrimental to
Yes.
succeeding at life.
But
Generally.
Interesting enough, some of them actually succeed. Because I don't know if you noticed, like what you said, interesting enough, when Zimbabwean students go out there, other people instantly recognize because they can see the discipline and even the academic achievements.
Yes.
My sister was telling me when she went to university in America, she was actually surprised because you come from here, you're an average student. She went there and she's like, people did, for the first 3 years of my university life, I was sailing through because half the stuff we've done in A level, you know. So sometimes it may have its benefits,
Yeah,
but
certainly, of
do we
course.
need to
Yeah,
find
but
a
the
balance?
because
Yeah.
the pressure, when the pressure is too much,
That's true.
it does actually affect
Yeah,
people's
it
mental health.
is at the expense of mental health. That's the
Yeah.
challenge now.
Because
So,
we
so,
have children that have anxiety going to exams.
so the problem is, it's not good in terms of mental health awareness. The problem is there's no mental health literacy. People don't know that whatever they're doing is not helping the child in
Yes.
terms of their mental health. They don't know that.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
We benefited on some level, I would say, because I had the privilege of being a student of Dr. MHIZHA. In psychology, I noticed this later now, which is what we're saying about working departments. There was a different way of learning that we had, because we're now being taught, for example, we're doing learning psychology. The people that were teaching us understood, like, this is the concentration time of a normal human being. For 40 minutes they concentrate, they need a break, they need... So I had a different experience in that sense, but the whole thing is to say, can that sort of, the psychology departments work with other departments to develop that? Because I think curriculum is like, as a physicist, for example, developing a curriculum, I'm not paying attention to the attention span of...
So there is actually a problem in that. Someone was talking of somebody who is educated but ignorant. The problem with people who are educated in Africa is that they think they know everything. So if you want to bring them something new, which may be correct, they won't have time for you. They think they know everything. They know it all.
That's a very good point.
Yes, they know it all, so they won't have time for you. They won't listen to that. That's a challenge.
When you say, Dr. MHIZHA, that lecturers are not teaching, but they're just examining, I actually think society is like that. Society at large. Society is not teaching. Society is not coaching.
Yes.
But we are examining children. We wait for when the child has failed.
And we are very much judgmental.
Yes.
That's why I would say sometimes the church is to blame.
I feel that.
That's why I would say. I wouldn't say God is to blame, but the church is.
Okay.
From what I've understood about God is that He's not judgmental, but the church is.
Yeah.
Everyone who fails,
Yeah.
everyone is on them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yet, actually, they are trying to be like, maybe they're like there to help
Yeah.
whoever is in trouble.
Yeah.
But then, they're not there to. We are not there to build
Yeah.
and to help whenever there are problems.
That's true.
But we are there to judge. Yes.
Mm.
Well, but actually, in psychology, we talk of that. We talk of the negativity bias.
Okay.
We only concentrate on things that go bad.
Yeah.
Yes, we are not worried about the things that are good. Yes.
And we're not raising the child for the things that are good, so that they can achieve them. And when
It's not
they,
a strength-based approach.
yes, it's a
weakness-based
weakness-based
Yes.
approach.
That's
And I'm thinking to our listeners, it's important. Ask yourself these questions. If you are a young parent, if you are a mature parent, how have you done it? Is there no room for correction? So that at least we start raising our children in a way that we will end up with a child that's independent, a child that can voice, for themselves and not have to go under pressure, and stress themselves to the point of breaking down. It's not fair and it's not necessary.
Well, as we round off, Dr. Michelle, maybe you can just do a quick run through of what exactly did we say? What are the challenges that our students are facing?
Okay, so basically in a nutshell, I would say, well, our university students actually are facing a lot of mental challenges, including actually financial struggles, peer influence, maybe the issue actually of a lot of pressure from the society, from the family, from the parents. This issue also of being judged negatively by society. And I'm happy that you are working on a program where we want to build resilience in these young adults, and that would actually help a lot. Yes, in fact, I think it's very important that we raise awareness on mental health issues. Yes, because people, they may not know that whatever they're doing to the young adults will be very dangerous and detrimental to them. The problem is, if we raise these children in a wrong way, it's going to be cyclical.
Yeah.
They are going to do the same to their own children.
Yeah.
So some people would say people are in hospitals and are in prisons because of the wrong parenting we are doing. Yes. Because actually the issue is we are not building attachment relations, strong attachment bonds with our children that would help them so that they also be able to do the same with their own children.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. That's
Certainly.
true. Yes, thank you, Dr. MHIZHA. I think you also left out issues of Mjolo.
Yes, of course. Maybe because of poverty, actually, this issue of Mijolo comes in. In any case, adolescence they say is a time of storm and stress. It's a stage where they should actually experience love. Yes, I was very much excited by some of these private schools, trustee schools, where they will have days where they will ask the parent would actually meet with their child and their boyfriend or girlfriend.
In this country.
In this country. That would be very important because we should accept that our children, our young adults, do in relationships. The problem is the parent who entered into a love affair when they were in primary school would not expect that child to enter a love affair in secondary school, even at university. So they would say, I want to meet your boyfriend, I want to meet your girlfriend. So that they know that having a relationship is not a problem.
That's it.
A problem is actually when they get into maybe sexual behaviors maybe that are not consensual, that are not safe. Yes. So the problem is if we stop them from entering relationships, once they enter in the relationship, they're going to have to sleep together. That's going to be a problem because they'll say everything is not acceptable.
We can never stop such a discussion.
Yes.
Very important.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Okay,
MHIZHA,
thank you guys. Thank
coming
you for
through.
this.
Yes, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Dr. MHIZHA. Thank you so much to our everyone participating with us. This is a conversation that is necessary as a society. This is a conversation that is needful, particularly for me when we brought in the issue of parenting, resilient parenting, nurturing attachments with our children, so that when they face crises, we are available. The relationship is strong enough that the child can fall back. And as it is today, according to what we have heard from Dr. MHIZHA, the crisis is real with our children in tertiary institutions, and some of it is things that we can deal with. That's my joy, I don't need money to love my child. I don't need money to train my child in an environment that's supportive. And so we are hoping, we are breaking the silence. Tilikuwa kwadabura matenga iwayo kuti tione kuti how are we raising our children and what are they becoming with what with how we are raising them up. So thank you so much, Dr. MHIZHA. Thank you so much to our panelists. We are hoping even you, our viewers, you are coming alongside with us, and we will continue this conversation. Thank you.